Well, well, well. I'm not sure what the order is going to be when I, finally edit these videos together, but I've got a 1964 Vibroverb in front of me. Holy cow. Behind me, I've got a 60 Bassman and a 67 Plexi. It is just unreal. It's incredible. So if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe, and if videos for those amps I just mentioned are not out yet, they will be soon, so stay tuned for that. But let's focus in on this incredible amp. So if you don't know about the Vibroverb, they're very special. I don't know how many were made. I believe it's in the hundreds. Only existed in 1964. It's a 1x15 setup here. And these were made famous mainly by Stevie Ray Vaughan. And they have a huge cult following, very rare. And this one is so clean. Look at this thing. Just unbelievable. Outside of that little issue with the knob, I mean, this thing is, let's see if I can get in the light. A little dusty, but look at that. It is so dang clean. Grill cloth looks absolutely perfect. So yeah, let's go ahead and flip it around, see what it looks like on the back. No wonder this thing was so dang heavy to lift up on the workbench. This has a massive 15-inch EV speaker. Get a little bit more light for you guys there. Check that out. Don't have a ton of experience with EVs, so I'm excited to check this thing out. And I'll have to get the tube chart in different lighting. It's in the corner over there, a bit too dark. But yeah, looks equally clean on the back. Let's go ahead and take the chassis out, and I'll get a close-up on that tube chart for you guys. Quick pause from the Vibroverb. I just want to tell you guys about something I've been working on in the background. I've been a longtime customer of Amplified Parts. I use them for pretty much everything. So you guys see me use their house brand mod caps all the time. My personal Bassman here, customer amps. I've got this 1960 Bassman that'll be on the channel soon. Stay tuned for that. It's got mod caps in it as well. They're Apex matched tubes. So that's another house brand for them. Great stuff. I use them for pretty much everything. So I reached out, was just like, hey, is there anything we could do to work together? Because I love your guys' products. You guys ship quickly. You're close to me on the West Coast, so I get stuff very quickly. The prices are great. There's got to be something we could do together. And they followed up being interested, which is fantastic. So they're going to be offering a discount code. It's Yeatzee 1025. Put it up on the screen now. And 10 being 10% off, 25 good through the end of this year, 2025. It's a one-time use code. And basically that just shows that you guys are engaged and you're interested in supporting me and shopping with them. So if you got anything you need before the end of this year, preamp tubes, any brand you can think of, they sell power tubes, resistors, caps, pretty much whatever, even guitar stuff they sell. Use that code. That really helps me out and kind of allows us to do more stuff down the line. I've got tons of cool ideas. They've got really cool amp kits. So I know you guys have been asking about building an amp kit on the channel and then modifying it, doing Mythbusters content. I've got a lot of ideas. So this is kind of step one towards that. So again, everything will be in the description below, Amplified Parts. And yeah, more to come, hopefully, but this is a good starting point. So, okay, back to the Vibroverb. A few things to look at really quickly here. Let me brighten it up a little bit. You can see they actually cut the speaker basket to make way for the output transformer, which slides right here in this area. So that's kind of interesting. This is a gigantic unit of a speaker. And then over here, the tube chart, look at this. Production 3 NA. N being 1964, and A would be January. So that is pretty dang cool. And yeah, the rest of the cabinet looks great. Let's go ahead and put the chassis on the workbench. Okay, as always, let's go ahead and start with the underside here. And I'm going to try my best to limit the reflections of the light so we can actually see what's going on. There are cobwebs all over this thing. It's just been sitting for a while, I take it. But let's look at the transformers. We'll start with the power transformer, which you guys can barely see. So it looks like to me 606342 is what I see. Hard to see, which would make sense. All of these should be right around late 63 because it dated to January 64 on the tube chart. And then we've got this choke, 606, oh, not in focus. There we go, 606341. So 1 week apart between these two. And then the output transformer, ever important, 606314. So all of these date to 1963, and then the reverb choke, or rather the reverb transformer over here, 606326, it looks like. So that is fantastic. Other things we note right away, obviously we were missing 2 of the tube shields, We've got one later, shinier replacement one right here. So definitely want to source 2 more for the owner for this. And all of the power tubes are Mesa Boogie, and the preamp tubes I can see are also Mesa Boogie. And we have a 12 AT7 in V1. That is weird. Should be a 12 AX7 there. Another 12 AT7. Going for lower gain, I guess. Not really sure. 12 AT7. Okay, are all of these 12 AT7s? I believe that one is correct. That should be a 12 AT7, but this should be a 12 AX7, and it is. Another 12 AX7, and then the last one should be a 12 AT7. Zoom out a little bit for y'all. Another Mesa, 12 AT7. So let's go ahead and undo the Doghouse, see what we got inside, and then we'll go to the main board. Before doing so, this might give us a little bit of a preview. We've still got the 2-prong, the original 2-prong. So let's see if that tells us all we need to know when we open this up. And the grand reveal, is it all original? Doghouse is certainly sticking like it is. Let's see. Come on, let go. Oh. Interesting. Okay. Not what I was expecting. You guys can't see, but I can. Let me show you what I mean. Stuffed. We got stuffed caps. No note in the Doghouse or anything to tell us if, you know, what parts they used or anything, but because the foam, it doesn't look like it's glued. Well, maybe it is. We'll have to see. Unfortunately, it looks like the foam was glued in place. When I try and pull it out, it just kind of rips. So yeah, the foam is very fragile. But the good news is I can make out, it looks like the back of the caps here, at least on this one specifically, and I won't probably be able to show you guys on camera, but I can see the back of it, and it is definitely a mod cap. They've got a very distinct back to them. If I can get to focus, it's got kind of that little bump and lip right there, and the back is silver like this. So fairly confident they're MODs, and yep, I think it's fine. So we'll go ahead and operate under the assumption that they are correct values. And while we have this open, let's go ahead and just measure those resistors real quick. I will commend the person that worked on this. Very nice solder joints. So those are both fine. Go ahead, put it back together, and check the other side of the board. And here the chassis is. And boy, is she pretty. So we've got an almost all original board. All the electrolytics on the board are original and untouched. All of the resistors on the board, at a first glance here, look untouched. All of the disc caps, all of the coupling caps, all untouched. That is fantastic. Really, the only thing that catches my eyes is this, which is, again, perplexing. Particularly considering they took the time to stuff the caps in the Doghouse, but it looks like they just electrical taped a jumper connection from this wire going to the Doghouse over here, and I'm not sure why you would do that, nor because this kind of wire is very readily available. So we will take that off, inspect it, and replace that entire wire probably with just some brand new cloth cover, just like they used here. Yeah, I mean, everything else looks pretty much untouched. We can see over here, looks like this might have been touched up a little bit. This ground connection for the center taps for the transformer, and then the bias cap was stuffed as well, and but it's got the original diode and resistor over there. So just a couple caps stuffed, the rest all original, and yeah, the chassis in stunning condition. So this is awesome. Really, really excited by this project. So from here, I'm just going to go ahead and measure all the resistors, make sure none are way out, and then we'll go ahead and go from there. Let's see what's hidden underneath this nasty electrical tape. My guess is this was a different tech that did this, because the tech that did the other recap, he did a very good job. The solder joints, for example, over here, there's nice domes on them. Took the time to stuff the caps. Tells me they really cared. So I'm going to guess this was done after that tech had worked on the amp. And I also don't think the same tech that would do all that would do this. So yeah, no clue why this is short. That makes literally no sense. Why? I'm trying to think of a reason. Can't think of one. So we'll just replace this wire with a new one that's long enough to reach there without having to do this kind of janky setup. Outside of that, I checked the rest of the amp's resistors with the multimeter, went through it with the schematic, but overall this thing is extremely clean, and the resistors all measure dead on. So there were no resistors that measured, out of tolerance enough to even consider replacing them unless they show themselves to be very noisy when it comes time to actually hear the amp. So everything on the board is good to go. Definitely gonna move forward with recapping these caps. We'll stuff them just like the previous guy did, and that should be good to go. Let's see, the screen resistors, interesting. So they measure a bit high. I'm going to recommend we replace those. Just better. These are part of the safety. When you have a power tube go, those are important, and these will eventually fry if the amp is going to be used. And they're already starting to measure high. So I'm going to recommend replacing those. And then notice there is no grid stop resistor. So there's no 1500 ohm resistors going from pin 1 to pin 5. Pin 1 is connected to the cathode, pin 8 and grounded. So this amp must essentially predate the schematic. I'll show you. Here's a schematic. Schematic for the AB763 Vibroverb. And look at that. So it shows there should be grid stoppers, but there isn't in the amp, and it's definitely factory. You can see this is dated right here on the chassis to the 4th week of 1964. So this thing is, very, very, very early into the blackface era. And yeah, just kind of interesting thing to know. I haven't had an amp this old, part of the blackface era before, so I'm not sure if that's typical or not, and we'll see if the owner wants to keep it that way or install the 1.5K resistors while we're in there. Otherwise, going to recommend, obviously we'll do the 3-prong, and then safety diodes I think is always a good idea with GZ34s, so definitely going to recommend we do that. And otherwise, leave it all be. This thing is so dang clean, really nice. We'll clean all the pots, tube sockets, make sure there's nothing else going on. But yeah, I think it's in extraordinary condition, and I'm excited to be able to help keep this amp going for years to come. So talk to the owner, and we'll come back when I hear what he wants to do. Good news, I heard from the owner, and we are good to move forward with the quote. So essentially what we're going to be starting with are the electrolytics, stuffing all of those caps. The screen resistors, we will not be adding in grid stops because it originally did not have them. Changing the bias resistor to get it biased correctly. We'll do the bias diode as well. New 3-prong, chassis ground, and then, I forgot anything? Oh yeah, and then the wire right here going to the Doghouse, just running a new wire for that. And then we'll be able to kind of test the amp once all of that's done to see if there's any other problems on the board. Maybe the Trem Roach is dead or something along those lines, but I'm not going to mess with any of that until I've got a 3-prong in it. So, and then also it was missing 2 preamp 2 shields, as you guys saw. And I have a little bit of stash of vintage ones, including this right here. So we will be utilizing these to complete the set. So I've got 3 of them for this amp to make it look nice and complete. One other kind of interesting thing I learned is that this amp actually used to be owned by John Cruz from the Fender Custom Shop. And this is a very, very early example, as you guys can see over here, hopefully. 4th week of 64, you saw the Transformers all date 63. So this is a pretty special amp, and I am very, very excited to have it. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get the parts in order and get going. The smart thing to do is start with the 3-prong. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll undo the connections here, take the strain relief out. I'm going to use a 12-foot long SVT cable, which is a little bit thinner and tends to fit perfectly in these positions. And we'll do a chassis ground just like you see throughout the rest of the amp. And while we have the big iron, we'll clean up this connection because it looks like it might have been touched up at some point. And yeah, we'll clean up this area. Make sure to not mess with the stamp at all and get the earth connection right here. Should be nice and solid. All right, 3-prong all done. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to really see too well on the underside there, but yeah, I use the courtesy outlet, so it's still hooked up. Neutral going to the primary, the power transformer, and then the hot going to the other side of the courtesy outlet, going to the fuse tip, and then going to the switch. And the other end of the switch is the power transformer once again. And then, of course, a nice chassis ground there, super solid. And just clean those up too while I was there with the large iron. So with that out of the way, we can go ahead and move on. All right, more work done. So bias diode replaced, and then safety diodes added to the rectifier tube socket, as well as screen resistors. So from here, I think we go ahead and just turn the amp on, and I want to see if the Trem works, if we have to replace the Roach or not, and then we'll tackle the rest of the electrolytics and do the cleaning and whatnot. But I'm pretty happy with the progress so far. Looking very, very nice. I do got to clean up some of these little bits and bobs from the resistors I cut, so I'll take care of that before turning it on as well. So it's sitting right around 51%, which is actually not bad, better than I was expecting, to be honest. Let's grab a flathead wherever I put it. So it looks like we need, for 70%, we need to be at 47 milliamps, so let's target, say, 42. So this is as hot as the amp can be biased. Let's see what that gets us to. So the hottest the amp can get to is 64%, so yeah, we definitely want to change that resistor. Not necessarily because we want it much hotter than 64%. You know, some people go for 70%. I tend to like 60% for Fenders. But we want the headroom because we don't know if these particular tubes, if they're weak, if they're extra strong. We don't know. We need to be able to have the room to go higher and lower. So we'll go and back this off to the coolest setting, and then we'll leave it about halfway for right now because I want to test the Trem real quick. And then we'll replace that resistor with the 15K, like I always have to do to these blackface amps. So let's go ahead and just see if the Trem works. I'm going to turn the volume up, turn the intensity up, and I'm going to see if I can hear anything from the cab. All right, that's good. Doesn't sound incredibly deep, but I think we can keep it as is for now. We can circle back if it's not quite up to snuff for the owner, but that's pretty good. So we'll go ahead and turn it off. And then now I'll just tackle the electrolytics and yeah, plug it into the cab and see how it sounds. But really, really stoked so far. Used a vintage carbon comp, measured 16K, should be about perfect for this. So let's see how warm we can make it. So we get into the 50s now, 45, 44. Let's see what that puts us at, 431. So that's 65% right there. So I probably cooled a little bit. 61%, cool. I'm happy with that. So we can leave that there, and from here, move on. Okay, there we go. Looks hopefully just like it did before, but we got brand new MOD 25 microfarad caps across all of these locations. So now it's just time to clean up the just kind of discard of random bits and bobs from cutting the wires, and then we got to replace this wire going to the doghouse, and from there I think we're just about done outside of the general cleaning and whatnot. So yeah, we're gonna end here tonight and pick up tomorrow. Before I forget, to showing the side views here. Nice and clean. So pick it up tomorrow. Back, it's a new day. Let's go ahead and remove this extra wire that was spliced on there. And then I'm hoping this is long enough, but I've got a piece of cloth covered wire that I kind of just got dirty, so it looks similar enough that it would match pretty well in this position. So I'm hoping this one is long enough. Otherwise, I'll have to do it again. But either way, let's go ahead and remove this as best we can. We'll have to flip it over, obviously, and pull it out from the other side in the doghouse. But yeah, I'm not sure, again, why that would be in this position in the first place. We can go ahead and just snip this. In fact, we can probably start pushing it through a little bit. Check the replacement if it's any longer. Definitely longer. Okay, so this should work out just fine. You can see it looks pretty dang close to the original. In fact, it looks a little bit dirtier than the original. Might have overdone it a touch, but otherwise, all good. You can kind of see the stuffed caps a little bit better, and you can see that far one, the one closest to me here. You can see the back of it. If you know what MOD caps look like, you'll immediately recognize that, which is why I'm fairly confident these are MOD and, in other words, good caps. So let me flip this thing around, desolder that, and yeah, swap it over. Perfect. That looks about as close to factory as you could get for that. Let's go ahead and do the other side. Well, that ended up being almost exactly perfect. Pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and get the wire installed, and we'll push the cloth down to cement it in place. Cool. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, really what's left is just testing the amp, doing some long-term, burn-in stuff, just making sure it's healthy, putting out the correct output wattage, so on and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and measure the output of the speaker. I'm not sure if that's a 4 ohm or 8 ohm. I don't know if these were, I think these might have been 8 ohm. These are expecting 8 ohm, the output transformers on these. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but either way, I will confirm that. We'll run it through the aux, do some loops, whatnot, and then if there's nothing else needed, you'll probably just hear a quick little demo to confirm it works. right, well, I thought this amp sounded fantastic through the aux box there, just running into a Vibrolux 210 virtual cab in the aux. The Vox is I have a love-hate relationship with it, to be honest. It sounds good. Unfortunately, it's all Apple product only, and I don't have any Apple products in here to be able to change the cabs. So I think there's a 1x15 cab in there, but I have no way of changing it because I have an Android phone. So that's very, very annoying. In fact, I don't even know if it works on iPhones. It might be just iPads. Either way, I digress. I thought it sounded fantastic just using my my test bench spring tank there. Yeah, this amp sounds awesome, and I'm sure it's going to sound incredible through the 15. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get a chance to actually demo it through the cabinet here. If you're curious of how one of these sounds, I've actually had another one of these in earlier, and I played that one, did a whole demo with a couple guitars, and that had a JBL 15. So if you're curious about that, I'll leave a link to that in the description if you want to hear what that sounds like. I'm sure you guys are probably sick of hearing me play too, so maybe if somebody else comes by, it's a good player, maybe I'll just have them do a quick demo of it or something. It's a bit easier for me to record somebody else than myself. Played the amp a little bit more and talked to the owner, and he does want me to move forward with replacing the Roach, get a little bit more depth out of this amp, so we'll go ahead and move forward with that. Roach swapped, so now I've got it hooked up to the cabinet just at my feet. So I've got the cabinet lifted up, and I'm going to point the mic toward it so you guys can hear what I hear. Gained the mic up quite a bit so you guys could hear that, but definitely having some problems with the first input jack here. Doesn't seem like it's the shorting connection here is not going to ground, so when I don't have a cable plugged into it, it's acting as if I do have a cable plugged into it with nothing plugged in on the other end, no guitar. So these two areas are not making good contacts. We'll go ahead and clean those two portions and see if we can kind of retighten those a little bit. Just bent it slightly so it's got a little bit better contact, cleaned it with deox and just kind of wiped it down, got any grime off of it for both input jacks, and that seemed to have fixed it. So it's dead silent now with a cable unplugged. And then I just want to show the trem working, so I'll just run a loop through this, show the trem and the reverb. Cool. Not sure how well you guys will hear that, but that sounds good to me. Got a little bit more depth out of it, which is good. But I did talk to the owner, and he confirmed that he'd be willing to come play the amp, do a little demo for us with maybe one of his vintage guitars when he comes to pick it up. So subscribe, stay tuned for that. That'll be awesome. I know you guys are kind of sick of hearing me playing, so it'd be nice to have somebody else. And yeah, other than that, there's really one other thing I wanted to show you that somebody pointed out to me with the cabinet, and we'll close the sucker off. All right, so shifting gears over to the cabinet, I just wanted to show, first and foremost, how the speaker is mounted. I didn't really even pay attention to it. I've never had an EV in before, but how in the world are you supposed to get this speaker out? I mean, you can't fit a socket in there. I don't know if you can see from the side, but there's no room at all to do that. So how is this even installed? I would assume something from the front. I'm not sure, but the grill cloth looks original. So that's just weird to me, first and foremost. But secondly, somebody told me they think the baffle is actually upside down. So you can see it's got the bend over on this side. I don't know offhand. I need to look back at some of my amps to see if that is on the top or bottom. But this is oriented the right way versus 94. So I don't know, maybe that's upside down sometimes. But let's go ahead and look at the other side of the cabinet here, because this tells us more. I have an interesting story a little bit. So you can see the logo up here. The logo is quite high. And if we go over here, hole. So you can clearly see the logo used to be there, was mounted there at one point. And then if we look at the top here, you can see it's all bending over, and it's got these silver staples instead of black staples. And it's bending over. So I'm not really sure what to think, to be honest. I mean, it looks good. So it looks straight from the front. So I'm not, again, sure how to interpret it, but just kind of interesting. Can't really get that to bend back over, but it fits fine. And looks like the original baffle just might have been messed with a little bit. So anyways, just kind of interesting there. So with that, we'll go ahead and end here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, give a thumbs up. Make sure you use that discount code in the description below if you guys want to buy anything from Amplified Parts. And until next time, see ya.